oh, Trump was nice to Russia. I wasn't nice to Russia. But you know what? Getting along with Russia is a good thing, not a bad thing. Remember that. Getting along with these people is a good thing, not a bad thing. It's a smart thing to do.
This is my video update on this Saturday afternoon, August the 31st. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Putin's trip to Mongolia. Why is this important? It is important because next week the Russian president goes to Mongolia, and Mongolia has signed up to the ICC Rome Statute. So according to the statute, according to the ICC, because there is an arrest warrant for Putin, when he lands in Mongolia, Mongolia should be arresting Putin, right? Right. Wrong, according to the authorities in Mongolia, according to the Mongolian government. When Putin does go to Mongolia next week, they have given Moscow their assurances that they will not arrest the Russian president as the Rome Statute, as the ICC demands them to. And the ICC is demanding that they arrest the Russian president. That is what the ICC said in a statement the other day when the news came out that Putin will be going to Mongolia next week. Peskov said, the Kremlin spokesman, said that Putin is not worried about the ICC warrant as he prepares his trip to Mongolia. The Russian leader will visit the Central Asian country next week. Quote, "We have excellent relations with our friends from Mongolia," Peskov told reporters on Friday. "All issues concerning Putin's visit have been worked out separately," he added, noting that Moscow has no concerns about the ICC warrant. Putin is expected to attend a ceremony commemorating the 1939 Battle of Khalkhin Gol, the Soviet-Mongolian victory over the Imperial Japanese Army, secured the USSR's eastern flank until 1945. The Russian president has received assurances from the Mongolian government that he will not be arrested, Bloomberg reported on Friday, citing two sources familiar with the matter. So the ICC, they have issued a statement, and they have warned Mongolia, if you do not arrest Putin, then you will face some severe consequences. What are those consequences? I don't know, to be quite honest. Let's read what the ICC has said. ICC orders Asian country to arrest Putin. All states that signed the Rome Statute have the obligation to cooperate in accordance with Chapter 9. ICC spokesman Fadi Al-Abdallah told the BBC on Friday the Rome Statute is an international treaty that set up the court, which Mongolia ratified in 2002. In case of non-cooperation, ICC judges may make a finding to that effect and inform the Assembly of States parties of it. It is then for the Assembly to take any measure it deems appropriate, Al-Abdallah said. The Rome Statute provides for exemptions when arresting someone would breach a treaty obligation with another country or violate the diplomatic immunity of a person or property of a third state. So there are exemptions, but I don't think those exemptions are being considered by Mongolia. I don't think they have any relevancy in this situation. I'm still not sure what the ICC is going to do to Mongolia if they don't arrest Putin. I don't understand what they're going to do to Mongolia. They're going to refer this to the Assembly of States, and then the Assembly of States is going to do what? Kick Mongolia out of the Rome Statute? Good. Good. Get out of the Rome Statute. Fine Mongolia? I don't know. I don't know what happens. I imagine that the Kremlin is doing this because they can delegitimize the ICC with this move. It's risky. It is risky. I would not have advised Putin to do this, but then again, I can see the logic behind it. It's not like he's traveling to Mexico. For example, Mexico invited Putin to attend the inauguration of the new president. There, I think Putin should not go and should send Lavrov, because you're traveling all the way to Mexico. It's a long flight. A lot of things can happen. The collective West, the United States, the neocons, they are panicking. They are desperate. Who knows what they may end up doing. And then when you're in Mexico, you're very close to the United States, and who knows what they could come up with. But Mongolia, you're in a country that's sandwiched between China and Russia. There's really not much that the collective West can do. So you're pretty safe to go to Mongolia. I would imagine that the United States and the collective West, they're trying to plot something. I wouldn't put it past them to be trying to put something together upon hearing this news to try and get to Putin. That's the risk, but I think he's safe. I don't want to say very safe. I think he's safe in Mongolia. If the government has said we're not going to act on this arrest warrant, then I think he's fine. And you're close to Russia. You've got China to the south, to the east, and to the west. And so I can't see anything happening. But it is risky. It is a risky move. Ukraine is also demanding that Mongolia arrest Putin. But why do this? By going to Mongolia, a country that has signed up to the Rome Statute, and they do not arrest Putin, you delegitimize the ICC. And maybe more countries will start to follow Mongolia's lead, and they won't take this warrant seriously. They won't act on this warrant, and then you really stick it to the ICC. To Khan, Mongolia. Anyway, that is the news from the Kremlin. Putin's trip next week to Mongolia. Zelensky, he fired the Air Force commander yesterday, all because of the F-16 crash. Maybe Russian missile, maybe an Iskander missile. Who knows? We are definitely not being told the truth as to what happened to this F-16. That's for sure. But Zelensky, he had to scapegoat someone, and so he fired the Air Force commander and chief. So I was talking about this story yesterday in my video update, and I was reading a comment from my video yesterday, and someone said, U.S. wonder weapon shoots down U.S. wonder weapon. If you go by the Ukraine narrative that they had to cobble together, the scriptwriters had to put it together when this story broke via the Wall Street Journal. If you go by the Ukraine account of things, then yes, a U.S. Patriot system shot down a U.S. F-16. Wonder weapon shoots down wonder weapon. But that's the story that Ukraine had to come up with. And from what I understand, they had to come up with it very quickly because the Wall Street Journal yesterday broke the story about the F-16 crashing. That's the title that they ran with. That's pretty much the title that most of the collective West media ran with. F-16 crashes. And then the Zelensky regime came out with the Patriot missile system shooting down the F-16. Maybe that is what happened. I don't know. No one knows what happened. We're not being told the truth as to what happened. But did you know that this F-16, the F-16 pilot, it actually crashed, was destroyed, was hit by a missile, whatever happened. This happened on Monday. The pilot, from what I understand, of this F-16 and the F-16, the pilot died on Monday. This event happened 3-4 days before the WSJ reported on it. Let me read you what John Helmer from Dances with Bears said about the F-16. So this was reported on Thursday, Friday, but it happened on Monday. The Wall Street Journal reported that a Ukrainian pilot was killed when his F-16 jet fighter crashed as he was helping to repel a massive Russian missile attack, according to U.S. and Ukrainian officials. The crash occurred Monday, just weeks after the first American-made aircraft arrived in Ukraine. Officials identified the pilot as Oleksiy Mess, one of Kiev's first pilots to be trained on the F-16. The U.S. government tip-off forced the Ukrainian Air Force into publishing its version of what happened to Mess and his F-16. He had been maneuvering in the air during the Russian missile and drone strike on August 26, the UAF claimed, and had shot down 1 drone and 3 incoming missiles before crashing himself. The 4-day gap in time was too obvious to make the news flashes credible. Mess's public funeral had already been held, and an obituary from the mayor of his hometown in Lutsk was published on August 26. Lieutenant Colonel of the Air Force of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Oleksiy Mess, was killed while performing a combat mission. Mayor Igor Polishchuk's message read before it was deleted from the internet. Another Ukrainian version picked up in Moscow indicates that Mess's F-16 had been shot down by a Patriot missile fired by a Ukrainian battery and their U.S. controllers. So before I read on, this happened on Monday. We had the huge Russian missile strike on Sunday, more missiles on Monday. This happened on Monday, and it was reported on, I believe, on either Thursday or Friday. Thursday, I believe the story broke on Thursday, and then everyone picked it up on Friday, and the funeral was already held. When the Wall Street Journal reported on this, the pilot's funeral had already been held. And you had one story from Ukraine, from the Ukraine Air Force, which said that the pilot downed missiles and then the plane crashed. And then after the reporting from the Wall Street Journal, you had another narrative which talked about the Patriot missile system downing the F-16. Helmer says, the Russian military has kept operational silence, but there are hints from the Ukraine, as well as from Russian military bloggers, that Mess and his F-16 were struck either by an air-to-air missile fired by a Russian Air Force Su-57 or by a Russian missile attack on the Kolomoya airfield, 350 kilometers due south of the western Ukrainian city of Lutsk. It's not clear whether he was at the controls of the aircraft or simply at command post. A Rupert Murdoch-owned London newspaper admitted in its report hours before U.S. officials began their storytelling. It doesn't appear as though Moonfish Mess was in the air when struck, according to early reports, the Sun added. The Wall Street Journal, also owned by Murdoch, was running a cover-up. Yeah, it's a cover-up. I wouldn't be surprised if Russia took out the F-16 and they can't say it. But it's also pretty bad, pretty embarrassing. The narrative of a Patriot missile system taking down the F-16, that's also pretty bad. Something something's going on. They're not telling us everything, but that's the update on the F-16. Fired by fired by Zelensky, the Air Force commander. So the Biden White House, they are. The cat is climbing way up there. The Biden White House is saying that they are not going to send any U.S. maintenance staff to Ukraine to maintain the F-16s. That is what the Biden White House is saying. This is absolutely connected to the news of the crash. No doubt about it. The New York Times is even saying as much. And it would be bad. It would be very bad for Harris and for the Dems if the U.S. sends personnel to Ukraine and something like this happens again. Well, here's the title from the Wall Street Journal. Biden administration rejects plan to send Americans to Ukraine to maintain F-16s. European countries are expected to step in to pay for maintenance and personnel to support the American-made aircraft and other weapons. So here's my thinking on this. The fact that the Biden White House is now publicly saying that they're not going to send any maintenance to Ukraine to deal with the F-16s, and they're basically telling the Europeans, you guys deal with it. You guys take the risk. It tells me that they don't want the crews at the airfields, wherever the F-16s are going to be stationed, wherever they're going to be maintained. They don't want any Americans there, especially during this election cycle. It may indicate that what really did happen was an Iskander missile hitting the airfield. And that's why the Biden White House came out so publicly and said, nope, we're not sending any American troops, any maintenance staff to Ukraine. We can't risk it. That's my thinking on this, but it's just a guess. It is just a guess. But isn't it interesting how the U.S. is telling the Europeans, you deal with it. You deal with the maintenance. Send your staff to Ukraine to hang out at those airfields and take the risk of a Russian airstrike. We're not going to take the risk. They're just dumping it on the Europeans. And the Europeans are going to say, yeah. The Europeans are going to say, okay, we'll send our staff to these airfields to maintain the F-16s. So Zelensky, he's in trouble. He is in deep poo-poo. The man in the black T-shirt. Have you guys noticed that Zelensky stopped wearing his green T-shirt? Now he's wearing a black polo or a black T-shirt. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Anyway, the media in the UK and in the United States, and much of the collective West, but the UK, especially the UK, they are reporting how Zelensky and Ukraine, they are losing in Kursk. And the military is blaming Zelensky. Everyone is blaming Zelensky for the Kursk debacle. It's now accepted throughout the collective West mainstream media. It's accepted that Ukraine's advance in Kursk, whatever advance you want to call it, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say their advance in Kursk has stopped and is now being rolled back. That's obvious to everybody now that Kursk has failed. Even Syrskyi said, whatever the goals were for Kursk, it's failed. Whatever momentum or advance the Ukraine military was having in Kursk, that has stopped. And a lot of Ukraine military, a lot of Ukraine weapons, resources is just getting annihilated by the Russian military. And the Ukraine forces are starting to be pushed back in the Kursk direction. And now you have the UK media, which is super pro Zelensky, super pro man in the in the black T-shirt, I guess. He's not in the green T-shirt anymore. The man in the black T-shirt. They are super pro-Zelensky, and they're now saying how Kursk has been a complete failure, a complete debacle. None of the objectives, whether hidden objectives or stated objectives, were met. And the Financial Times is even saying that Ukraine's military, they are openly blaming Zelensky. And they're not only blaming Zelensky for Kursk, for the debacle that is Kursk, they're blaming Zelensky for the debacle that is Donbass. As the Russians continue to advance on all fronts, Toretsk, they're advancing, Pokrovsk, they're advancing. You came down from the tree, huh? I wonder what was up there. Only the cat knows what was up on that tree, in that tree. Anyway, yeah, Russia's advancing in Pokrovsk. Ugledar, we are getting reports that Syrskyi is removing his best men, his best soldiers from Ugledar as this is about to fall. We're actually getting reports that Syrskyi is moving one of his best brigades from the south, I believe from Zaporozhye, and he's moving them to Pokrovsk in order to try and hold on to Pokrovsk because they can't have this key supply hub fall before the elections. The U.S. elections, they can't have it fall because that would just mean the domino collapse of the entire Donbass front. So I guess the order to Zelensky and now to Syrskyi is start moving brigades from the south or from whatever we have, not Kursk, but anywhere else, move them from there to Pokrovsk and try to hold on. The Karadag Brigade, the Ukrainian nationalist Karadag Brigade, which is about 2,000 members. It was fighting in the south, and now it's being transferred to Pokrovsk. And Zlati 71 rightly says that the transfer of a brigade of approximately 2,000 troops from its usual position in southern Ukraine to an unfamiliar battlefield in the east highlights the urgency of Ukraine's challenges between Avdiivka and Pokrovsk. Yeah, it highlights the fact that Zelensky's in deep trouble. They thought they were going to divert Russian forces from Donbass to Kursk. At least that's one of the official narratives. There's so many narratives that they've thrown out there. The only narrative that they haven't told us about Kursk is what they were really up to, which was trying to capture the nuclear power plant. Κλείσετε. Φεύγω. Όχι, πάω κι εγώ. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ. So, what was I saying? Yeah, they didn't tell us the narrative that was the truth, which is that they were trying to go after a nuclear power plant and threaten a nuclear power plant. But they told us a whole bunch of other narratives, and the one narrative that they were trying to sell us on was that they're trying to divert Russian forces from Donbass to Kursk. And the fact of the matter is that what happened is that Ukraine had to divert its forces from all over the place to Kursk, and now they're having to divert more forces, more brigades from other areas into the Donbass to plug up the holes in the Donbass. I mean, what a complete freaking debacle from General Zelensky, the military Churchillian mastermind, a Napoleon Churchillian mastermind known as Zelensky. What a freaking debacle. You know Syrskyi's going to get canned for this, right? Just like they fired the Air Force commander. They're going to scapegoat Syrskyi for all of this. But it's not going to stop the collapse of Donbass. It's not going to stop the rolling back of Ukraine forces in Kursk and the annihilation of the Ukraine forces in Kursk. This elite brigade that's going to be sent to Pokrovsk is going to be annihilated as well. Zelensky accelerated the collapse of Ukraine with this Kursk operation. So that is what the Financial Times is reporting. Everyone is upset with Zelensky. Kirby the other day hinted at green-lighting long-range missile strikes into Moscow. I talked about how Yermak was in the U.S. with a list of targets deep inside of Russia that long-range missiles could hit, and he just needs the Biden White House's permission. Kirby said in a statement that they're looking into it, but they're going to keep their conversations with Ukraine private as they discuss whether to greenlight long-range missile strikes into pre-2014 Russian territory. Moscow, the Kremlin, they believe that the Biden White House will greenlight a nest, a pigeon's nest. Wow. They believe that Moscow believes that the Biden White House will greenlight the use of long-range missiles into pre-2014 Russian territory, which is crazy, dumb, stupid for the Biden White House to do. But as I said, they are in a panic. That's why it's not such a good idea for Putin to be traveling around, but he feels safe going to Mongolia. They know best, but they're panicking. They're panicking so much that they're most likely going to start firing long-range missiles into Russia. The U.S. is going to be providing the targeting and the firing. I mean, we know that Ukraine can't do this, right? That's how much of a panic we're seeing from the Biden White House as Project Ukraine collapses very quickly. So Poland is tapping out of Project Ukraine, or continues to tap out of Project Ukraine. We have reports saying that Poland is not going to be training Ukraine armed forces servicemen on its territory. They're going to stop training soldiers, Ukrainian soldiers, inside of Poland. I don't know how reliable this information is, but that's what we're hearing. Donald Tusk, the uber EU globalist Tusk, he said that Ukraine will not be a member of the EU if it does not settle historical, problematic issues with Poland. We all know what Tusk is talking about, right? That's quite a comment coming from globalist Prime Minister Tusk, a man who is committed, deeply committed to the globalist project, deeply committed to the European Union, and was also deeply committed to Project Ukraine. Now he's saying no EU membership for Ukraine unless they deal with the historical realities of what happened in Poland. Kuleba, by the way, Foreign Minister Kuleba, I think he was on a talk show in Poland, if I remember. I was watching a video a couple of days ago, maybe yesterday, and Kuleba was on some talk show, and it did look like Polish TV. And Kuleba was saying something along the lines of, and I'm probably getting this wrong, maybe I'm getting this right. People watching from Poland, let me know. But Kuleba, the foreign minister of Ukraine, was saying stuff like Poland. We understand that Poland has historical issues with Ukraine, especially the Banderites, the west of Ukraine. But Ukrainians also have historical issues with Poland. That is what Kuleba essentially said. Basically, he was telling Poland that they need to also recognize stuff that was done to the Banderites or something like that. A really bizarre, weird comment from Kuleba. Very insulting comment from Kuleba, the foreign minister. He's He is a terrible diplomat, that guy. That guy is a terrible diplomat. Anyway, that happened yesterday. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. His appearance on this TV channel pissed off a lot of high-level officials in Poland, understandably so. But maybe that's why Tusk is coming out and saying, unless Ukraine deals with historical matters between Ukraine and Poland, they're not going to get into the European Union. Which in a way is a blessing for the EU, because Ukraine getting into the European Union, if it were to ever happen, that would be the end of the European Union. There's no way that the European Union can financially take care of a broken, bankrupt Ukraine, whatever remains of Ukraine, whatever that is, in a year or two. We don't even know what Ukraine is going to be in a year or two. So Poland is tapping out of Project Ukraine. Germany is tapping out of Project Ukraine. Italy, they said that they are opposing strikes on Russia using Italian weapons. Italy is trying to tap out of Ukraine as well. But the Italian the foreign ministry, not the defense ministry, the foreign ministry, Antonio Tajani, during a meeting in Brussels, he said that Italian weapons cannot be used to strike Russian territory. So Italy is trying to distance itself from Project Ukraine as well. Everything is collapsing around Zelensky, in and around Zelensky. Everything is collapsing. So let's do a clown world, and we will wrap this video up. I believe X is now suspended in Brazil. Is that what I'm hearing? I don't even know the story of how this all came about. From what I gather, from what I understand, I haven't been following this story very closely, but from what I understand, Brazil wanted information on an X user because of various posts this X user or X users were putting up that were violating, according to Brazil, were violating Brazilian law or something like that, and X wouldn't give up the information. And that's how we got here, with Brazil going up against Twitter X. Is that correct? Am I saying that correctly? I don't know. I haven't been following this very closely, but the judge is ordering X gone from Brazil, suspended. And he's going to tell the app stores the same thing. He's going to tell the app stores that X is no longer available for download in Brazil. That's going to happen. And Elon Musk, he is saying that he's going to publish the judge's crimes. Every day he's going to publish the judge that ordered the suspension of X in Brazil. He's going to publish the crimes that this judge has allegedly committed. I don't know what's going on. This is crazy stuff. But I do know this. I don't know if I've even got this story right, but the way things are going, we're all going to be using VPNs. Everyone's going to have a VPN. VPNs are going to probably be pre-installed on your mobile device. They'll probably be part of web browsers. And the VPNs are going to be such that that whatever governments try to block off the VPNs, the technology is going to be so good that it's always going to be one step ahead of the governments trying to block off the VPN so that they don't allow access to certain sites that they want to block off. Everyone's going to be on a VPN soon. Either that or the internet's just going to be completely fragmented. But I would not be surprised if you start seeing an Apple VPN baked into the iPhone or Safari. Brave already has a VPN for the Brave browser, but Chrome, Firefox, Windows, Android phones, I imagine they're all going to start putting VPNs into their devices and into their software. Anyway, that's the update there on Brazil. And Clown World for today. Let's go back to that Colombian mercenary story from a couple of days ago. I got that one a bit wrong. I was under the impression that the mercenaries that were arrested as they were boarding a plane. They were in Moscow flying to Venezuela, and that's when the Russian authorities grabbed them because these mercenaries were fighting for Ukraine. That's not what happened. These mercenaries actually made it to Venezuela, and they were looking to go from Venezuela to Colombia, and they were wearing their military gear so that they could cut ahead in line. And that's when the Venezuelan authorities, they noticed the Ukraine military patches on their uniforms, and that's when they grabbed them, and then they sent them to Moscow, to Russia, where they are now facing trial. And the FSB, they put out a video with all of these guys' information, their IDs, their patches, the info that they were fighting as mercenaries on the side of Kiev. The FSB put it all out there. According to Colombian media, both men have military backgrounds. They were reportedly arrested in mid-July in Caracas, Venezuela, as they were returning to their home country from Poland. It is understood that the Venezuelans spotted the Ukrainian military insignia worn by the passengers. So Venezuela got them. Venezuela got them and sent them to Russia. Wow. Wow. Oh, they were so close to Colombia, huh? They're so close to Colombia. These guys probably thought they got away with it, right? They probably thought we made it. We're now just a couple of hours flight from being back in Colombia. And nope. Nope, nope, nope. Back to Moscow you go. And finally, we have this quote from Maria Zakharova, connected to Telegram and Durov. If France has initiated a criminal case and detained Durov on suspicion of money laundering from crimes or offenses committed by an organized group, then Biden and Zelensky are banned from entering France. True quote from Zakharova, but if that's the case, then I would also say that Macron is banned from entering France, right? I mean, why stop at Biden and Zelensky? Macron, Ursula, Borrell, Schultz, Pirate Schultz, all of them are banned from entering France, right? Anyway, that's the quote from Zakharova. I'll end the video there. theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter, X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch like the t-shirt I'm wearing today. The link is in the description box down below. Take care.